Hi guys, this is just a quick update. I wanted to point something out because it's extremely useful, and as I have explained in my video, that I've felt for a very long time, and you could go back and search on Dow's and also on Jenny's site, various sites, and I've always argued the fact that it's the waters that is halting and taking. And it was only until I made this video that I made it a little bit more clear to you guys what I'm talking about. And I've checked this with grammar experts, and I also checked it with multiple parsers from Stanford University and also Google Cloud Parser API. And if I run, I don't know, I ran a bunch of tests on all of them, and only one of them had a mistake on that. And the mistake that it had really didn't impact what the waters are doing. What it did is it took not far but too far to walk, and it put it up under begin. So anyway, I was looking at my video, and last night somebody named Ryan Liebelt. Hope I'm sure I'm butchering his name. I'm sorry about that, Ryan. Anyway, he pointed out to me that I should take a look on a post that he made on Thor, and I just looked at his post a few minutes ago, and let me read his post to you, okay? This is his post, and it's called Water versus Water. My first topic, I guess I waited until I felt I had something worth sharing. I've had this idea for a while and have yet to see it talked about anywhere in the manner I'm about to. I do not have a solution to anything as a result, so I'm willing to put it out there in hopes someone will contribute to it and take it a step further, although it is possible that I'm wrong, or I may even help someone who doesn't mention how. Well, anyway, here goes. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why Forrest uses waters, plural, instead of the singular version. And there are reasons for that, but like he says here, it just stands out to me as unnecessary, and it may be revealing. I tried to reason it out scientifically and just couldn't come up with a solid reasoning because the usage doesn't follow any rules. No specific information can be obtained because of the S. What Ryan is saying here is that water would work just as well, okay? Even if it's multiple bodies, it's water. A lake is water. A river is water, right? So I guess it always bugged him, why is it plural? So there really is no case when waters provides a description that water could also provide scientifically. However, there is a grammatic reason for the plural waters. I hope this makes sense to all of you in the written explanation. If we were to just use water like this, begin it where warm water, how can I now use halt? I have to use halts. I'll explain that in a minute to you guys that don't understand. And take it in the canyon down. Now it would be takes it in the canyon down because you would have to use halts. Let me go to here what I wrote in my comment down here. For those of you who don't understand what he's talking about here, there's a grammatical rule that when you use a verb, verbs of course describe the state or an action of a noun. If the noun is plural, the verb has to be singular. If the noun is singular, the verb has to be plural, okay? So in other words, he used waters, he'd have to use halt, okay? If he put water there, he would have to make halts plural. Now the problem is, as I point out in my video, grammatically the word and, because there's no comma before it, it is describing what the waters are doing. They halt and take. The statement is not telling us to take it in the canyon down. It is telling you, he's describing an area, and he's saying the warm waters halt and take. The warm waters halt and take. If he used the singular version of water, then he would have to use halts, plural. But now it won't make any sense because he would have begin it where warm water halts and takes. Because of the fact that and is tying those two verbs back to the same noun, he would have to change both of them. He couldn't just change halt. He'd have to change it to halt and also change take to halts and takes. Now, that wouldn't make any sense with the canyon down, because you wouldn't say begin it where warm water halts and takes it in the canyon down. It doesn't make sense, right? So that is the reason why he's made, or could be, I should say. That could be the reason why he made water plural, because he wanted it to grammatically agree with halt and take without having to use the plural version of the verbs. And I wanted to point this out because I think it's very important, and this is my reason for looking at the grammar. Regardless of what anybody tells you out there, that the grammar doesn't matter, that is not a valid thing to say, even with poetry. There's a poet out there, E. Cummings, who's famous for completely, bastardizing grammar. The thing is, he's also mocked by poets because he does it for no reason. Like, his whole entire poem is just a botched up mess. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's creative. To me personally, that, I don't like, let's say, art, abstract art. I don't get it, okay? I don't really think it's creative to slap a bunch of paint on a piece of canvas. But some people do. Hey, that's cool, And some people do that with poems because they think it's cool, right? They're going to be a rebel. But the fact of the matter is, poetry does follow the rules of grammar initially. And you assume that. And the reason for that, again, is that the poem is written in English. The poet's going to assume that people reading it understand English grammar, okay? Now, he has the freedom as a writer to bend those rules, but he's bending those rules in certain places because he knows that the reader, if there's, they understand the grammar, they're going to pick up on that. And he could use that grammatical error to draw attention to a particular clause in the poem, okay? And this is exactly an example of that here. The poem is grammatically correct. And because of that, a lot of people might look at waters and they're stumped. Why is waters plural? Well, the reason why it's plural is because the verbs, both verbs, that are applying to the waters have to be in agreement for it to be grammatically correct. And if he would have made it not grammatically correct, it would have stood out like a sore thumb to people that do understand grammar, because they would have said halts and take. That doesn't make any sense, because how could water halts and take? It doesn't make sense because the word take is not plural. This could apply throughout the poem. So the grammar is extremely important. Anybody that tries to tell you any different, in my opinion, is just straight up misleading you. It is important. And this might be one of the reasons why Forrest is telling us to pay attention. Okay, all we have is the poem. The poem is written in English. Okay, we have to understand the language, or we can't possibly expect to interpret the poem the way Forrest intended. And if you can't do that, you can't possibly look up definitions in a dictionary for these words, because you don't know what you're looking up. Are you looking up a verb? Are you looking up a noun? When you look in a dictionary and you pick a word and you see that it has multiple definitions, some are nouns, some are verbs, some even maybe an adjective, right? Some maybe even an adverb. So you can't just grab that entire list. That's not the way it works. You have to know, if you're looking for a noun, then only the noun definitions would ever apply. But you also have to take the tense of the poem into consideration, which is something that I didn't want to bring up in these videos, but when I'm finished with everything, I'll discuss some of that stuff as we evaluate the whole poem overall. Seeker brought that up on Dal's blog, that there's some tense issues here. I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to not complicate things. Anyway, the reason that I wanted to put this out again is just to point out to you that the grammar matters. And here's a perfect example. And I want to thank Ryan for pointing that out. That was a very good observation. So whenever you hear somebody tell you a solution where they say I went to where warm waters halt and then I went down the canyon, stop right there. You did the wrong thing. The poem does not tell you to go down the canyon. Period. It does not tell you. However, as I said in my video, it all depends on where the home of Brown is. The home of Brown might be where warm waters halt. The home of Brown may be at the end of the canyon, and you have to drive to it because it's not far but too far to walk from where the waters halted. This whole stanza, I think, is telling you again to put in below the home of Brown. Basically, the only reason for the first part or the first sentence in there is to describe an area using, let's say, two clues: where warm waters halt and the canyon down. But he's not telling you to go down the canyon. It very well could be that the home of Brown is in the opposite direction of where the water went. Now, that's probably not likely, but it could be. Okay? And my example for that was in the other video where I talk about the Green River. The Green River headwaters going down into the Grand Canyon. Obviously, he doesn't want us to go down to the Grand Canyon. The chest is not in the Grand Canyon. That's out of the area where the treasure could be, although it's not out of the clue area. But let's say the home of Brown was Riverton or Du Bois. He's basically getting you up in the area in Wyoming in that case, and he's putting you, when you discover, let's say warm waters halt was the Green River headwaters, that when you're there, your home of Brown will be obvious. Maybe the home of Brown's Yellowstone. And put in below means put in south of Yellowstone. Point is, we have to read the poem properly. And in order to read it properly, the warm waters are halt and take are both applying to the waters, not the searcher. As a matter of fact, that could be the one thing that Forrest has been saying for a long time now, that what if there's something that we've all been overlooking? I mean, that could be it, because it's extremely common. And the first thing that a new searcher sees, let's say they go to Dow's website, which is probably the most popular reference site, the way he has the forums broken up by where warm waters halt, he has, WWWH, and then he's got the canyon discussed somewhere else. But the whole clue is begin at where warm waters halt and take it into the canyon down. That's one statement, okay? The halt and take are applying to the waters. So in order to solve where warm waters halt, you need to consider everything in that one statement. You can't possibly break it up. There is no, or doesn't appear to be, based on everybody I talked to, any grammatical errors in the poem. So if you're not reading it the way Forrest wrote it, then you're intentionally messing with his poem. Forrest had the ability to break these rules. As a reader, you do not have that ability. So anyway, thanks guys. And I have, like I said, the rest of the poem done, and either later this week or maybe early next week or over the weekend, I'm going to release the third stanza and finish up with the poem. After all that's done, then I'll discuss some of the things like Seeker had brought up regarding the tense that's being used and regarding on how these stanzas interact with each other. So have a great day. Bye.